Hello again everyone, today we're going to VGA mod a Sega Dreamcast. To do this we're going to use some VGA parts here, which we're going to solder onto the back of the Dreamcast, some fresh solder. We're going to use a couple of diodes, we've got 50 diodes here. We're going to use one double pole double throw switch for switching between VGA mode on and off, because not all games support VGA mode. We're going to use two 4.7 kilo ohm resistors, two 150 ohm resistors. We're going to use some strip board, which we're going to cut to size. We're going to use an audio jack socket to do audio out, because VGA doesn't carry audio, so we're going to solder that into the system as well. We're going to use three 220 microfarad capacitors. We're going to use some Carnal wire and possibly some electrical tape. We're going to use a soldering iron with a new tip on today. We're going to use a file to file a space in the back of it for the VGA port. We're going to use our glue gun. We're going to use our screwdriver and of course our Sega Dreamcast as well. So what I'm going to do now is make a clear way and then disassemble the Sega Dreamcast. I'm not going to show you doing that because you've seen it before. If you want to see how to disassemble it fully, view my Modchip video, which there'll be a link in the description too. So I'm going to disassemble it and then come back to you. So back soon. Right, so I've disassembled the Dreamcast and I'm down to the main board. This is the Modchip that I installed last time we were inside here. Unfortunately, I just put in my soldering iron and it exploded. So I'm using an older 30 watt soldering iron, but again I put the new tip in. But that's annoying because I like my 40 watt iron. I'll show you where we're soldering to on the board. So if I flip it upside down, here is the video port, and these pins lead to the video port. So we're soldering directly onto these pins. These pins here at the side are for audio, right where my thumb is, 1, 2, 3. Left audio, right audio and ground, and then these are the video pins that we soldered to for the VGA mod. So what I'm going to do is cut a piece of strip board to size. Let me show you the strip board diagram. This is the website we're using, follow the guide. I'll put links in the description to this, mmmonkey. So that's the schematic that we're going to follow, but it's also put it into a nice strip board for us, which is easier to follow. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to make a 7 by 11 piece of strip board, just cut it out, and then we'll solder all them in. So I'll come back to you once I've cut it to size. Right, so I've cut my strip board to size now, 7 down and 11 across. If you notice at the bottom right I took a bit of the copper off, which I didn't mean to take off, but it's alright because there's nothing soldered in at the bottom right point. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make the cuts. If you can see these red lines here in between the positive and negative terminals and on the resistors here is what are called cuts. So we're just cutting the board, we cut the copper away so that the electricity will flow over the component and not through the strip board, because it always takes the path of least resistance. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make those cuts with a pair of scissors, and then I'll come back to you once we've done that. There you go, so you can see all the cuts there, the 3 on the top 3 rows and the 2 down at the bottom left. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put in our components and solder them in place. So the shorter leg is always a negative leg and the longer leg is always a positive leg. You can also see on them, the side with the shorter leg has got like a coloured strip and it's got like a minus sign on it. That means that it's the negative terminal. So we need to solder them in the correct order. So let's get cracking with that. So what I've done is I've just fed it through the board now, as you can see, with the negative to the left and the positive to the right. What you want to do is cut the legs before you solder it in, because if you cut them after you solder it in, you can break the solder joint and you can create a cold solder joint. So what I'm going to do is just bend the legs left and right, like this, and then cut off the excess bits. Right, so as you can see now, we've got short terminals, and we're just going to solder them into place now. Right, so use a 30 watt iron unfortunately, but we heat the copper track and component like so, and bring the solder to the component and the leg like so. So that's the positive leg in. Let's do the negative leg. So same again. There we go. So let's bring that closer to the camera so you can see. So it's the positive leg in and the negative leg in, like so. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the next 3. So I'll come back to you once we've got all the capacitors in. We've got all 3 capacitors soldered in the right polarity. Negative this side, positive this side. What is really useful to do, let me get a tool, is once you've done some soldering on a strip board, is run a knife or a flat-headed screwdriver just along the tracks, like so. And you can see how it's moving. If it crashes or it gets stuck somewhere, which it's not doing, but that means that you might have a solder bridge, and you need to clean that up before you go any further. And it's useful to keep on checking as you go along instead of having to come to the end and realise that it's you've got a bridge somewhere. So that's those three in. Next we're going to do the two resistors down here. So let's get on with that. These are going through this track that we cut here. So again we're feeding through the top of the board, and I'll show you how to do that. Let me just pop them through and cut them to size. So we're going to bend one leg down, not both of them. The thing with resistors as well is they can go either way. They're not polarity specific like capacitors and diodes. So let's stick this leg into here. So that's how I'm slotting mine through, like that. So it's bent down against the board, as you can see, like that. I'm just going to cut the legs and then solder it in. So let's solder this one in. Again, heat the copper. I'm going to solder to the copper like so. Like so. Let's close up at that one. So that's soldered in. And just check the lines. Nice flow. And then this one. Nice flow. And look at it from the top of the board. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stick the next resistor in. Well, let's check the lines again. That line's good. That line's good. So you can see all our solder points in. And on top I've got our 3 capacitors and 2 resistors. So next we want to put the other 2 resistors in. So now let's put our 2 diodes in. So diodes again are polarity specific, but they don't have like a plus or minus on them. What they've got is a small line here, which indicates the negative terminal. And if you look at the actual diodes, you see the little black lines on them. So make sure you solder them in the right way. As you can see, before I push it down, the negative line is coming to this side of the resistor. So let's pop it into place now. Once I just push it like that, I'm just going to pull it through with needle nose pliers on the other side so it sits plush on the board. Like so. And that'll make the diode on the top of the board sit plush like that. So let's get it in position and then we'll solder it in. So that's the first diode in. One more diode to go. You can see it there between the capacitor and the resistors. And now we'll just solder in the last terminal. Like so. Now let's just check it for bridging. No bridging. No bridging. So that's all our solder points done. As you can see the underside and the top side. We've got our 3 capacitors, our 200 ohm resistors, our 2 4.7 kilo ohm resistors, our 2 diodes with the negative terminal going down. So that's it done. Now we just need to solder on some wires here and some wires to the board. So what we're going to do is work on the Dreamcast main board now. Right, so our next step we're going to work on the VGA socket. If you can see the black dots, they need to be bridged and then soldered to ground. So that's what we're going to do with our VGA port here. We're going to use an old bit of resistor leg or diode leg and bridge these 3 here and these 2 over here. So let's get on with that now. So if you can see these like holes in these pins are known as buckets, and they're just you can fill them with solder dead easy. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fill these middle 3 with solder, these 2 with solder, and I'm going to put a resistor leg in just to bridge them all. That's those 3 filled with solder. As you can see, these 2 now. so. So we're melting the solder we just put in. Try to do that and then bend it round. Awkward. So like that. That's one point of it in. Right, as you can see there. Maybe a wee bit too much excess, but it's alright. Those 2 points bridged. Like that. So that's those 2 points bridged. And that bit's out of the way. As you can see, next time I do these 3 here. There we go. As you can see there, we've got those 3 centre pins joined. Right, so these 3 are joined, these 2 are joined, so they're going to end up going to ground. Right, so what I've realised I need to do is the 2 sections that are joined together, those pins, they need to go to ground, but they also need to be joined together. So these 2 need to be joined with these 3. So I'm going to use a bit of a chip lig again and just solder it over. Right, so that's it soldered on at that side, up here. Now I just need to get it into this one and solder it in here. Like that. So now we've got those. Let me show you this way. So we've got the 2 bridged here that we already had bridged, and the 3 bridged over here that we had bridged, and now we've got a piece of resistor leg joining those 2 grounding points. And what we're going to do is solder a cable onto here as well, and that'll be the ground cable. So let's do that now. There we go, so that's our ground cable in as well. What we're going to do now is solder it onto the PCB we made, the strip board we made. So, solder all the wires on now, and then we'll work on the Dreamcast board. Red is this one, green is this one, blue is this one, so we're going to put red, green, blue in first. So that's the red cable soldered in. There we go, so that's green in. Now we'll do blue. Right, red, green, blue. Give them all a little tug, make sure they're in tidy. And we'll just check we've got no bridges, which I'm pretty sure we don't. I can see by eye that there is none. But we'll still just run this down them. No bridge there. And the channel. No bridge on that track, and nothing yet on that one. Right, so that's red, green, blue in. Now we want to do our ground wire. Right, let's solder the ground cable in. Like so. You can see it in there. Nice little tug. So now what's next is vertical sync and horizontal sync. Our V and H wires. That's V in. Nice little tug. Looks good. Let's just check it for bridging again. And the track. No bridging. That is red, green, blue, ground, vertical sync, horizontal sync. And that's going to our VGA connector. Now what we want to do is go into the Dreamcast and solder from these 7 pins to the board, the same sort of thing. So let's work on our Dreamcast now. So these are the pins we're soldering to that are here. Firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the audio cable, which for the audio cable, this is left audio. Can you see that? Left audio, right audio, and ground. So let me get my audio connector here. If you can see, it's got 2 terminals. One side's left, other side's right. There we can see a bit of a lump of solder, which this is the casing. That's ground. So I'm going to solder that in first. Right, I'm going to lay some flux down on the board. You don't actually need to use flux at all, but it does make life easier. It just helps metals fuse together when you're soldering. Now it's non-conductive as well, so you don't need to worry about anything shorting out. So just over the points I'm going to be soldering to, just put some flux down. So sort of like tinning a wire, I'm just going to put some new, because the board's 15 years old now, let's put some fresh solder on these points. Like so. Should just make life easier. Right, let's solder the left cable in. I don't think we actually saw that. That's left audio in. Let's do right audio in. That's right audio in, so that's left and right audio. And let's do a cable for ground. Right, let's solder in this ground cable. Like so. So that's left audio, right audio and ground. Right, so that's the left audio cable onto the audio connector. Right, so that's the right cable in. I don't know if you saw that or not. Put left and right in. Now we just want to solder ground to this. So ground goes to the outer casing of it. Right, so that's the ground cable in, so let's take this tape off and show you. Ground cable going to the outer casing here. Then left audio the red cable, right audio the yellow cable. Coming onto the board to left audio, right audio and ground. So now we're going to work on the VGA ports. Right. That's red in. Give it a little tug. And securely. Right, so that's green in. Right, that's vertical in. Right, so that's horizontal in. Give it a little tug. And securely. Right, next we want to do the switch between red, green, blue RGB and between VGA, because not all games support VGA mode, even with patching. Alright, so let's solder on the top one, which is VGA. the process of that, I've taken off the RGB cable. Is that a nice tug? RGB is unsecure. 5 volts unsecure. So that's all our cabling on now. Right. So this is our double pole, double throw switch, DP/DT. You see that you got double terminals. So let's go this way around. This is going to be VGA. This is going to be RGB, and these two are going to be ground and ground. And then nothing on these terminals here. Like so. Give it a nice tug, nice and secure. That's RGB and nice and secure. Right, we need to add a ground cable to the board, another one, which we haven't done. I'll show you the switch nice and close up. So VGA one side, RGB the other side, and then we're going to have a ground cable going to the middle pins. Right, the bottom left point there, which you can just see, is available to us as a ground point. So we'll ground there. That's in nice and secure. So still doing it on that side. So we've got ground going to the middle two terminals. You see it going across in the middle there. You see it go across. So it's soldering it on either side. VGB on one side, RGB on the other, and that'll switch between VGA and RGB. And we'll mount that on the back of the console near the VGA port. Right. So now we want to solder the rest of the wires to our strip board. So a bit of a tidy up. So over here I've got the switch and the audio cables coming. Just taped them out of the way basically, while I solder in the other cables onto the strip board. And no bridging. Now we've got red and green in. I want blue next. No bridge there. Nothing to bridge with there. Right, so red, green and blue in. So this point here to the left of the audio is also a ground point, so I'm going to go to that one. Right, so that's a new ground cabling. Give it a little tug, it's secure, so that's the ground in. Next, vertical sync and horizontal sync. There we go, that's vertical in. That's horizontal in. Right, that should be the circuit done. Just give it a little tug, make sure it's insecure. It is. Right, so that's our strip board done. What I want to do is tidy all this wiring out because it's long wires and it's a mess. So the way I want the wires to come is across the board to this centre screw here, and I'm going to remove where the screw goes into on the base. Let me show you. I'm going to remove this bit of metal here, cut it off here, and take out this base bit of the case where the screw goes into the base bit of plastic, so that the wires can travel through there. So we'll do that in a minute. What I'm going to do now is, while the glue gun heats up, I'm going to glue all the wires across down to here tidily, and glue all those points to keep them insecure and neat and tidy. So while that's heating up, I'm just going to work on this now. So it's this bit I'm going to take out, and I think I can just do it with some needle nose pliers. Weaken the metal till it just pops out. So there we go. That's that bit off. See, I've cut out that bit now, and I've just put some tape around it just to insulate it. And next we're going to take out this screw hole that's sat there. Alright, so that's most of it out, as you can see. Yeah, so I've got it piled down as much as I can do it. I'm just going to put a piece of tape over it. There. Right, so yep, so now when the base is in, we've got a nice section here for a load of our wires to come through, all of our wires to come through. So that's what we're going to work on now. Our glue gun should have heated up now, so we're going to work on our wire management. Alright, so firstly I want to glue all the actual points in place. A bit of a mess on that. Audio cable, so tiny amount of glue, finger on it so it flattens it. Alright, so that's my wire management done. Bringing them all down here, where they're going to come out of that gap I just made. I do it in sections because it's easy to glue them down in sections. If you try to do it all at once, it just becomes a mess like it was before. So as you can see, this is how the base sits on, and the motherboard in place, and you can see all those wires now are going to come to the gap that we've made. So let's pop it back into our Dreamcast. Right, so we're back in the Dreamcast. Let's there's the Modchip out of the way. So here at the back now, I've got the switch on the audio cable. I'm going to see them in a minute. What I want to do is glue these tidally up here and along to here, and this piece of strip board is going to be glued down here like this. So I'm going to take all that slack out of the wires and resolder them on. So I'm going to label them all so I know which wire's which, cut them to the right size, and then resolder them in. So you can see it's coming up. The cable's coming up, they're glued there, glued here. This is now going to sit here like this. And now what we want to do is sort out these cables going to the VGA part. So I'm going to work on that now. Right, so we've shortened the cables there going to the strip board, and we've shortened the cables now going to the VGA part. So the strip board's going to sit like that. Get it all flush like that. I'm going to tape that down, put some tape underneath it, and then just glue it in place so it holds it in place. And then the VGA pot is going to be at the top of the lid here, mounted here, in the top half of the case. And then I'm just going to sort out these two cables now. So I'm going to fix this in place. So as you can see, we've got the short wires coming up from the board here. We've put a bit of double-sided tape just to stick the strip board down there, and then we've got the shorter end coming to, it's going to come to the top of the case like this. As you can see, I've just put some glue around the wires, and it's a bit messy, but that just keeps all those wires in place so they're not going to come loose. And now what we want to do is make a hole in the top of the case where this is going to sit like this, and then we'll tidy those wires up a bit more as well with a bit of tape. So what I want to do is get the top half of the case. Let's just retrieve that. Right, so this is going to be sitting here like this, and then underneath I'm going to have the switch and the audio jack. So what I need to do is when this is on, I'm going to put it on fully, but I need to cut a hole for it. Get the camera right. Cut a hole just about here. So what I'm going to do is use a drill to do this. Make put a drill hole, drill hole, drill hole, drill hole, drill hole. So I've got like a line of drill holes. Then what I'm going to do is come in with a file like this, and a smaller handheld file like this, just to tidy it up. So I'm going to go drill this down in the cellar, and I'll come back once I've drilled the holes and I'm ready to start filing. Right, so just thought I'd give you a bit of an update. So what I did is drilled two holes where the screw's going to go through, and then a line of holes here, and I've just been filing out with this file to make sort of a VGA shape, and I've been using an empty port that I haven't soldered as a template. So you can see I'm almost done. I just need to make it a little bit wider on all four sides, and then it should fit through and I'll be able to screw it into place. So I'll come back to you once I've got it the right size. Right, so I've managed to get it in now and put 2 screws in. I've got some bolts I'm going to put in on the other side. What I've had to do is I've had to go in this way with the metal on the outside, like this, instead of coming in and under and pushing it through, because when you went through that way there was too much plastic here, which took up too much room there, so you wouldn't have actually got a VGA cable to connect to it. So I've had to go through this way, which means I'll have to desolder these wires, label them all 1 to 6, desolder them, put this through the case, how this is going through the case, and then solder them back on from the other side. But before I do that, I'm going to put all my screws back in the motherboard and base, and so it's semi-reassembled, so then all I need to do is put the case screws in. So I'm going to do that and then come back to you. Right, so as you can see now, I've labelled these 1 to 6, which is how they go into the board in the order. So I'm going to desolder them from here, and it can come through the case and go back in like that. So I'm going to desolder them now, and then while I've got it desoldered, I'll put in ports for the switch and the audio jack. So I'll show you all that now. So I'll be back in a minute. Right, just to show you where we are now. If you can see at the back here, we've got the VGA in, and we've also got a screwed a hole here for the audio cable, 3.5mm jack, and a hole here for the switch, which I'm going to glue in place there, and they'll be sitting just here and here in the unit. Now these wires here for the switch and the audio cable, I don't want them interfering with the open-close switch. And if you can see on the GD-ROM there, they've got like 2 little wire tidies, so I'm going to put them underneath those wire tidies, like that, and put a dab of glue just here. So I'm going to do that now. Just like that. I found if you shove your finger on top of glue once you're gluing as well, you get really low profile glue, so it doesn't stick up like a bobble. Figured it out the other day. Right, so I'm going to resolder in the VGA, and once I've done that, then I'll show you the rest. Right, so this is the basic install done. We've got the VGA coming to the strip board, going to the main board. We've got the audio socket and the switch going straight to the main board. So what I want to do now is just put some double-sided tape under here to hold this in place, and then try and get the lid on. We should have enough room in this gap here for the audio jack and the switch. If not, we might cut away a tiny bit of this plastic of the GD-ROM, but we're going to try and put it together like this first. Let me put some tape under here. Right, so it's all glued in place. I'm going to try and put the lid on. Right, so I've reassembled it now, and I've just put in the VGA lead, an audio cable going to some desktop speakers, and a power cable, and of course a controller. So we'll power it on. We've got the TV set to RGB, so we'll see what we get. We can hear the audio working, and there's a Dreamcast running in VGA mode, which is absolutely awesome. So I'll set that there. Now it's working. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to test to make sure the Modchip's still working after we've been inside messing about with it. So we're going to use our Japanese copy of Marvel vs Capcom 2, which is a really fun fighting game. If we can open the case, there we go. So I'll pop it in. Let's straight boot in the game. So like I said, not all games will work, but most do. Some you'll need to patch. So I'm just going to have a quick round on this. And then we'll call it quits. Get a strider. It's an awesome game. Don't be cheap, Cyclops. What a cheap git! That's one down. Go on, Jill. Try level 4 special. Awesome sauce. Two down. Spider-Man, you are so gay. You wear spandex, you are so fucking gay. And you're gonna be pwned. Hadouken. Right, so that's another successful modification. If you enjoyed this video, please rate and subscribe, and join us next time when we do something else cool.